Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica, Imperialis and to today's video. Today is Warhammer Day 2020. Yes, it's also Halloween, but who really cares? Well, I know a lot of people do, but you know, details. Today is Warhammer Day 2020, 31st of October, and it is a day where hobbyists around the world, including Games Workshop themselves, are, in theory at least, to come together and celebrate this amazing hobby that we find ourselves in, the worlds of Warhammer, as it were. And obviously, at the moment, that's difficult. There's a lot of areas, at least where I live, that are in lockdown or various restrictions, meaning that meeting up for games or painting sessions or whatever is not on. A lot of tournaments are not running. A lot of conventions have been cancelled. It's not a typical Warhammer Day. So what I wanted to do today was make a video, a really grandiose, really cool video that I wanted to do to show off and celebrate Warhammer Day the best way I knew how. But every time I tried to come up with a plan or asked people for ideas, I kept coming back to the same thing. There's no real way for me to celebrate Warhammer the way I would like to. And so instead, today is a day where I'd like to pay tribute to it. This is, if you like, a winding ramble to nowhere about why I love the worlds of Warhammer, why I love this hobby in general, why I got into it, and what makes it so appealing to myself and the thousands, if not millions, of hobbyists of all ages and walks of life around the world. I got into the hobby over a decade ago. It's more than half my life now. Warhammer 40k 5th edition came out around the same time, and I was introduced to it through a friend, and from there I then actually got to meet a few other people who'd been introduced through their friends, or I introduced people myself through people I got to know. And we formed a little Warhammer club that ran all of our time through secondary school. We ran a Warhammer club together. We added new people, some people left, and we had a bunch of different games with all different armies, game systems. We tried all sorts, and it was, whilst a very basic introduction, almost the perfect embodiment of what the hobby is like at a grassroots level. It is a group of friends, starting maybe from just one individual, who together share a passion for this hobby and explore that by looking into different things, sharing ideas, playing games, reading books, painting miniatures, watching videos is probably a lot more common nowadays. There is a real sense of community in this hobby if you are with a group of friends and able to explore it that way. Even if you aren't with a group of friends to explore it, the online community has grown and grown and grown over the past few years, especially as Games Workshop have gotten more active when it comes to posting and sharing their own hobby with us. And so now if you go onto Twitter, you go onto Instagram, you go onto YouTube, which is obviously my domain, you will find a host of like-minded hobbyists willing to share their passions and their ideas about the hobby with you and let you do the same. You can ingratiate yourself with almost any walk of life. People you've never met, people from around the world, people who happen to just live over the road and you never knew that they were hobbyists, celebrities occasionally, and even the authors and games designers themselves as they've become more active. It has become a truly global community, but it hasn't lost that local gamers club feel. It's no longer, I suppose as it was maybe 10, 20 years ago, neckbeards in basements, as the old stereotype would go. It's not anymore. It's a hobby for people, supposedly 12 and up, but people as young as 5, 6, 7, or 8 will find themselves exploring different parts of the hobby. Warhammer Adventures as the series of books for younger readers. Their first forays into painting at a really young age. Using sprues to build terrain, which was in White Dwarf this month. All sorts of things. And there's still the old guard, I suppose, and I'm not one of the old guard yet, but you've got the old guard who've been here through edition after edition, reboot after reboot, change after change, and have stayed with the hobby out of their love for it and the community that they are part of. whether that's their local gaming group at their local store that go around each other's houses on a weekend back when that was allowed, or whether it's the international communities, the people from text to speech from all over the world who I've got to meet through Adeptus Podcastus, and all the other creators and writers and designers and individuals I've got to know through doing this hobby for over a decade and doing that podcast for over 4 years. It is truly an amazing community to be part of, and I think that is one of the reasons why people keep staying and keep coming back. Yes, the gameplay changes. It's often very good, but it has its lulls. Yes, the model design has ramped up incredibly, and there's something for everyone in model design. Whether it's the aesthetics, the species involved, the factions, the characters, the painting opportunities, the conversion opportunities, whatever it so happens to be, there is something on that front for everyone. Or whether it's developments in the lore, which are absolutely amazing, and where I cut my teeth on YouTube through 40k stories and generally doing a lot of reading of literature. What keeps us coming back, and the reason I was so reticent to give up this channel when I started teaching, even though I knew it would have potential consequences going forward, as has happened with a lot of streaming, I didn't want to give up on this community because this is what keeps me coming back. Being able to share my projects and talk with other creators, individuals, people I've never met, people I've got to know, people sort of more celebrity stature, and the smaller creators as well, whoever they are, being able to share with them and have their ideas sort of influence me has been a truly worthwhile thing. It keeps me tuning in to Warhammer community to look at what's going on with new releases, new lore, new trailers, new whatevers. Has kept me coming back because I know I can go into the podcast, talk about it, share that, and then get ideas from the comments, and we can talk about all of that. And it's what keeps me painting, because at the moment with local lockdowns and restrictions across the UK and across much of the world, playing the games right now is next to impossible in some areas of the world. And even where you can play, it is very, very different to how it used to be. So being able to share with that community, talk to people while I'm painting, do hobby streams before I had to stop them, all of that keeps me coming back to the hobby. It's all about that sense of community. It is a wonderful hobby, a wonderful community, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But there's more to it than that, and something that I think people don't really notice is the things you learn and the skills you pick up as a hobbyist. So take, for example, here's a miniature I've just done. This is one of my Alarith Stone Guard. 10 years ago, I never would have had a hand steady enough to paint this model. Heck, 3 months ago, I really struggled painting my first Lumineth miniatures because of how finicky they were. But now, I love painting them, and I've developed skills. Look at my Selenar model if you want to look on some of my social media feeds. In fact, I could bring it over, but I'm not going to stretch. The skills that you develop as a painter, looking at colour matching and blending techniques, highlighting, all of those things, and thinking about aesthetic stuff like painting and the steadiness of the hand that it can help you train is a really useful skill. On the conversion front, this is actually slightly kit-bashed, would you believe? It's slightly kit-bashed, but it allows you to explore those creative aspects of the hobby, being able to chop and change components, create custom miniatures, or sculpt something from scratch if that's your thing. If you have an artistic leaning toward miniature design or, any sort of sculpture work at all, then there is something here for you. And if you are someone who's more inclined as an artist in general, well, have you seen all the amazing fan art that's in all of my videos? It's amazing work. And you can develop that and share that with the communities as well. Get some feedback, get some ideas, take commissions to start earning money. It is a real amazing thing. Then you have the lore. The lore increases skills with literature and literacy, obviously, because you're having to read. But if you're someone like me who loves reading books and then analysing them and discussing them like I do on the podcast, then you get to learn about analysis skills, being able to recall and connect information together to try and create a timeline. That sort of idea of tracking history, of analysing text is stuff that's very academically useful. as in terms of studying GCSEs and A-levels, if that's your thing. Or if you're writing, if you're a creative writer or someone who just wants to explore writing for yourself, well, that library does commissions from time to time. They're open submissions contests. And you've also got just the chance to share your sort of fan fiction. There's a community for that. There's a community for that as well. And you can use the different things, and that helps there, which also helps with writing applications. It helps with writing essays, being able to analyze information, and it will be really employable to be able to, oh, here's the thing, I need to analyze this thing in order to interpret what it means for us. Okay, I've got that skill because I did a lot of reading when I was a hobbyist or as a hobbyist, therefore it's a skill I've picked up. And then in gameplay, there's so many. Things like mathematics in working out lists, probabilities of landing a successful hit or not, or whether that shot is worth it, whether to go for a charge and weighing up the consequences of failing that charge versus the odds of success of making that charge, the consequences if you do succeed, being able to analyze situations, think about short and long-term goals is a really important skill in life. Being able to plan ahead, come up with ideas and adapt them as the situation changes. Yes, it's a tabletop miniatures game where you roll dice and some plastic falls over, but at the same time, the skills you develop for later life, and for life in general, never mind later life, just for life, are really, really useful. And then there's the social aspects. Those who knew me as a child and as a teenager know I was not very sociable. In fact, I was one of the most antisocial, insular people going. And yet now, I'm a YouTuber with over 30,000 subscribers, and I'm a teacher, someone who spends hours of their life and their day-to-day job standing in front of a group of people, talking and sharing ideas, collaborating, debating. And all of those skills have come from the hobby as well. Being able to talk to people at gaming stores, share ideas, play games against people and not be evil about it. And of course, I've got the YouTube stuff where I've done the podcast, having to ingratiate with different communities and work with people very quickly on short notice and things like that. All of those skills are developed by just being part of the hobby. You will never actually realize that you're learning those skills. And it's only when you stop and think about it, it's like, actually, wait, I couldn't do that if it weren't for all the stuff I've done in the hobby. Those things you pick up almost by osmosis, which is not a scientific way of doing things because that's moving at water molecules, sorry students. But all of those things that you can pick up as a hobbyist are really, really worthwhile. And I know about the cost. And I can see there's probably some comments have already gone down and said, Tactica, do you realize how expensive it is to get into this hobby? Like, good for you that you got all of that and you love all that stuff, great, but it's too expensive now for us. I get that. But there are ways to access the hobby on the cheap. You can buy miniatures second-hand that have already been painted for you by the previous owner. They might not look the way you'd exactly love them to, but you can use them. Or if you don't want to do the painting side of things, you can just buy the miniatures on sprue. Either you have them pre-assembled or have them be push fit if you don't want to bother with glue, or you can just leave them grey. You won't get full points in a game of 40k because obviously they ask for battle-ready painted armies now to score victory points in some things, but you can do that. You can just access it without all the painting bills. The model's still too expensive, completely reasonable, but reading the books. A paperback book will probably take you a good few hours to read and cost $8.99 in the UK. A hardback is 18 quid, and that's a fair investment, but the amount of reading you get to do, and again, those skills that you're picking up, increasing your literacy and exploring the universes without having to invest in codex after codex or battle tome and rulebook and all this stuff is a way you can do that. And even if you can't do any of that, that's where this community aspect comes in. Being able to go onto social media and say, hey, I'm interested in learning about this. Does anyone have any sources? And they can link you a YouTube video that you can watch. Or you might just, decide, I want to learn about this, and you watch a series all about them. For example, you want to learn about the Horus Heresy, then you can go and watch certain people's books analysis. Or if you'd rather learn about a specific faction or a character, you've got channels like mine, channels like Remle's, channels like Oculus Imperia, who can give you that. You want to just have an absolute laugh and play with the canon? Go and watch Text-to-Speech, that legendary series. Want to learn how to play the game without actually, having to go through the stress of actually learning to play the game? There's tutorial videos all over the internet from Games Workshop, Mini War Gaming, and many, many others. There is a way to access this hobby without spending much money. Yes, you won't be able to engage with it in every single way, but you can still access it. Share your interest, learn things, and maybe one day, if the finances do line up a little better, or you have a friend who's willing to split the costs, or there's a charitable donation going on, or a giveaway being run by one of your favorite creators, you can still invest a little bit. And there are many game systems now with such a small model count. Warcry, Underworlds, Kill Team that's returning, Middle-earth I think can be played more of a skirmish style. There are many, many game systems now that don't require a huge investment in models. And so it's another cheaper way to get into the hobby. So yeah, that's why I love Warhammer. I know I've rambled on and sort of gone onto a bit of a selling piece in many ways, but for me, it's all of those things together. It's the social aspects, which really benefited me as a teenager with no life and no friends. Well, that's a lie, but certainly a lot of my friends came down to doing Warhammer. Whether it was my literacy skills, whether it was the social speaking aspects, whether it was the tactical stuff, the mathematical skills, the analysis skills, all those skills I developed whilst exploring the hobby, and now, especially now, the community that we get to be part of. I haven't even talked about how immersive the stories are, how well written the characters are, how interesting, if not necessarily balanced, the game design is, how amazing most of the miniatures are to actually own and look at and work on. I haven't even really got into that because that's all secondary, really. They're things that might get you in, but they're not the reasons to me to make you stay. Well, they can be, but for me, it's the community. If you are part of the hobby community, and I welcome you all to do so, you are welcome in a tolerant, diverse, open-minded community where you can share your ideas and get involved in passion projects the world and the hobby over. There is something here for everyone. I've said it time and time again. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have an excellent Warhammer day. If you'd like, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. What is it that got you into Warhammer? Why do you love the hobby? And what are you doing to celebrate Warhammer Day? And if any of my fellow YouTubers are watching this and want to start like a trend of this style of video, then by all means go right ahead. I think it would be a terrible idea, but hey, I'll have to do something that gets trending once in my life. So, thank you very much, everyone. Have a fabulous Warhammer Day. I hope you enjoy what's left of the rest of the day, depending on where you are in the world when this video comes out. Take care, stay safe, and happy hobby. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.